Humility, not to be confused with narcissistic false modesty. Humility is realizing that your brain is flawed and imperfect, that you don't always know everything. In fact, you know very little, and that you're always got to be open to correction and improvement. By being constantly aware of these potential flaws and weaknesses, you'll actually react to them in the most helpful way without becoming attached to some sort of egotistical model of yourself where you're perfect. Arrogant people like to think of themselves as superior to others. They think of themselves as completed products and everybody else being inferior. So they believe what their mind says to them. They think every time they feel certain about something that that's somehow proof that they're right. And as a result, they get locked into incorrect beliefs and outdated systems of thinking. Leads them to bad ideas, getting alienated by their peers, getting stuck trying to make ineffective strategies work, and generally just missing out on their thrill of insight, of learning stuff about yourself that you didn't know before. View yourself as just another primate. You're just another human with a human brain. You're prone to the same fallacies and biases and problematic thinking that every other human has. You're not better than anybody. All right, you're working with the same basic organ that everyone else is, so you're going to make mistakes. Most of the things you currently believe are at least a little bit wrong. And if you want to become a wise person, a confident person, you'll be looking to correct those mistakes, not cling to them. Which, of course, brings us to the next one, critical thinking. Skepticism or critical thinking is the ability to question what you're being presented with as if it's false, rather than accepting everything you hear, including your own thoughts, as truth. A lot of people think confidence means feeling certain, but actually, confident people are okay with being uncertain. See, when you can't be uncertain, when you have to come to a conclusion and cling to it, you're not confident, you're insecure, you're neurotic. Confident person can say, I don't know, or maybe I'm wrong, without any sense of shame or loss. So the human brain is constantly taking shortcuts to try and conserve energy. This is the very definition, really, of a cognitive bias. A shortcut the brain takes where it dismisses a lot of information and tries to sort of continue knowing what it already knows rather than learn something new, because that just uses the least amount of brain power. When you start to question everything that comes towards you, including your own conclusions and your own sense of certainty, you open yourself up to the greater truth, which means you open yourself up to more wisdom. More wisdom equals more confidence. It's about this huge effort to resist the urge of what feels good to believe in favor of what's actually true. Most people are only skeptical about things that they don't already believe, to the point they will dismiss hard evidence, and yet they'll be unquestioning about ideas they're already familiar with. This means, of course, that when they're wrong, they stay wrong. Everything you feel certain about is just a story in your head. It's just a narrative that sounds good, that doesn't actually make it true. If you can hold on to the idea that you are at least a little bit wrong about everything you think you know, if you just keep that door open ajar just a tiny bit, then no matter how strongly you feel certainty about something, you must be at least some detail that you're wrong about. Some minor piece of information must be at least a little bit incorrect. If you can just keep that door open, you'll realize it's actually a lot worse than that. You're really wrong about most stuff. We all are. In this case, I actually recommend you start doing research, if you haven't already, into cognitive biases and logical fallacies. Start to learn about how the human brain gets things wrong, and then look for it in your own life. And if you can't see it there, at least look for it in the lives of other people. Look how easy it is to come to the incorrect conclusion while feeling completely certain, and start to doubt what your mind says. This leads us to the next one, curiosity. There's no such thing as a close-minded, confident person. Curiosity is the ability to constantly look for new information to learn and grow. A confident person is always going, how am I wrong? How do I become more right? See, confident people are okay with confusion. They're okay with not knowing. They're okay with being a beginner. They're okay with being educated and humbled by being proven that they're wrong. That's what curiosity is, and ironically, it leads to you being the most knowledgeable and the most wise. The person who refuses to admit they're wrong and doesn't want to learn something new are the most likely to be wrong. One way to look at curiosity is evolution. Adapt or die. Curiosity is the state of constantly looking for better survival information, constantly trying to update the model that you're running to suit the new environment. The world is constantly changing, constantly evolving. You've got to change to keep up. If you've stayed the same in anything for a long period of time, the only thing you can be sure of is you're getting behind. A lot of people get to a certain age and just decide that they know everything. They know enough, that they've seen enough information to come to solid conclusions on what the right thing is to eat, or what politics a country should run by, or how to raise a child. A confident person goes, you know what? I've never found the best idea. I've got to keep looking. There is always a better idea out there than what I currently believe. Always. So always be learning about something. Always be in some form of education. Whether it's learning a language or having a hobby or just updating information or signing onto a news channel that, leans the opposite politically to what you're used to, or anything that challenges what you currently think you know. Optimism. Not to be confused with false positivity, as I mentioned earlier, which is pretending everything is great or trying to convince yourself that you're better than you are. Optimism is just about accurately acknowledging what's good. It's about looking for your opportunities, looking for strengths, looking for what's going well, and putting more attention onto that than the opposite. Think about it as focusing on solutions rather than problems. Optimistic people are empirically more successful. They do better in tasks, they enjoy life more, they have a higher quality of life overall. And it's easily confirmed with a mental experiment. Imagine you only focused on what's going well, what your strengths are and how to make the most of them, what the opportunities are available and how to exploit those opportunities, and measuring what you're grateful for. Imagine you only did that. How would that compare in the long run to somebody who only focuses on what's going wrong, only focuses on their weaknesses, only focuses on what they're resentful about? I mean, it should be pretty obvious who ends up with the better life. People worry about their weaknesses and focus on the problems around them, especially the ones they can't solve, as if this is somehow helpful, as if this is going to keep them safe. Why would you believe that that's helpful? It's like when you're learning how to drive, you're taught not to look at the headlights of the other car because you'll unconsciously start pulling your car towards them. You've got to look away to the other side of the road. It's actually looking away from the threat that keeps you safe. If you focus in on the threat, you start driving towards it. It might sound counterintuitive, but when you focus on what you're good at and what's going well and how to make the most of that, you actually keep yourself safer than focusing on threats and risks. Optimism is not naive, it's just responsible and solution focused. Not only should you keep a gratitude journal of some kind, or at least just once a day reflect on what you're grateful for, but also treat everything that happens to you as a secret opportunity. If you look, you'll find it. No matter how horrible an event seems to be, if you ask yourself, how do I turn this to my advantage? You'll start to notice there are answers to this question nearly every time. Self-awareness. You notice how obvious other people are? How you see them sabotaging their own success, repeating their mistakes, doing things that clearly aren't going to work out well for them in the long run. And you just ask yourself, how do you not see it? You're the same. The more you know yourself, the better your decision making will be. Knowledge is power. You can't hope to correct your unhealthy patterns or your subconscious self-sabotage if you don't know what it is, if you don't see it happening. Most people are so worried about other people's opinions of them that they actually very rarely look at themselves objectively. They're always worried about managing what other people will see rather than asking what's really going on? What am I doing? If I was somebody else, what would I see when I watched me over a long period of time? So you've actually been observing yourself every second of every day, but you haven't been paying attention to what you're observing. You've been layering it over with the opinions of other people and the worries and concerns for the future and so on, without going, what's really happening? What am I doing all the time? People are scared of looking for this information. They're scared of what they'll find if they start digging. But all you're going to find is helpful insights to improve your decision making. Journal every day as if you're an outsider giving yourself feedback. Have a look at your behavior, especially your patterns of behavior. If something bad happens in your life, even if it feels like bad luck, reverse time to go, how did I get here? What was the lead up decision making that led to this bad thing? You might think I was unlucky having another relationship with another narcissist. Well, were you forced into that relationship or did you choose it somehow? How did you meet this person? Why are you attracted to that type of person? Where are you meeting them? These are all decisions you're making. This is a pattern you're stuck in. It's a pattern that can change. Ruthlessness. A lot of people think of this word as meaning selfish and harmful, and I guess it can mean that. But in terms of confidence, ruthlessness just means being willing to do whatever is necessary to get the right thing done. It doesn't happen very often that you need to be ruthless, but when it does happen, you cannot hesitate. A confident person knows when it's time to bring the sword down. There are times when compassion and empathy must be dialed down to zero in order to protect yourself or your loved ones. Life is hard. The world's trying to kill you. That's what entropy is. From the moment you were conceived, the universe has been actively working to kill you, and one day it's going to. And if you want to win that fight for as long as possible, sometimes you're going to have to fight back hard. Other people can be selfish and cruel and manipulative. Evil does exist. I've worked with criminal offenders. I've seen evil. There are people out there who take pleasure in harming others. And when these people stray into your orbit, you better be ready to fucking come back hard. The animal that can protect the sheep from the wolves is the sheepdog. They are equally as ruthless as the wolf. They're just more caring and compassionate about the sheep, and they're not looking to serve their own hunger. I see videos on the internet. There's this guy who pretends to kidnap a child. I think the child is really his kid or an actor. And in a crowded street, he'll just pick it up and run down the alley. And 9 times out of 10, people see this happen and then just go back to what they're doing. It's not that they don't know what's happening. It's that they're too scared or embarrassed to act on it. They're worried that they've misinterpreted it or that they'll, humiliate themselves. But a confident person goes, I cannot let that happen. I will absolutely embarrass myself if needed to make sure that this isn't what I think it is. You must be ready to act and act hard when something is really wrong. When boundaries are crossed, when harmful acts are committed, when bad behavior is repeated over and over again, compassion must be put aside and you need to bring the hammer down. Even the one who's doing the harm benefits from you being ruthless. Most people who are actually really bad with crossing other people's boundaries only do so because they get away with it. So don't just set boundaries, enforce them. If somebody breaches your boundary after you've set it, make sure they never want to do it again. And I don't mean punish them or harm them, just take away the opportunity. Make bad behavior impossible, or at least very, very difficult and uncomfortable. Make it so that being disrespectful to you and your loved ones is just not worth it. Are you a nice guy or people pleaser who wishes they were more assertive, more honest, and better respected by others? Since 2013, I've been helping people just like you discover their integrity and apply it courageously to build deep and meaningful connections, get respected by others, and become the confident person you've always wanted to be. Imagine being able to speak your mind without worrying what other people will think or worrying that it's the right thing to say, and being able to assertively stand up for yourself and your loved ones. Imagine never feeling the need to apologize for who you are or what you want, and being able to live carefree without shame or the I'm not good enough story in your head. Imagine going to bed knowing that you courageously took every opportunity available to you and you've got no regrets because you always know what you should be doing in every situation. I'm so confident in my ability to help people like you unleash your highest level of self-worth that I give people a free coaching session to test what I'm doing. In this 1 hour session, we will uncover the biggest barrier to your confidence, whether it's an awareness problem, you don't know what you should be doing differently, or it's a courage problem, you know what you should be doing, but you find it too intimidating. I will guide you to make a breakthrough with your behavior to get through that barrier in a powerful way without feeling terrified and without destroying everything you love. I've had some people find this first session so powerful that I never hear from them again simply because they didn't need anything more after that. It launched them into the highest level of confidence that they've ever experienced. And if that's the result you get, I'm good with that. One client put it, this session was more valuable to me than 3 years of therapy combined. So if you're tired of trying to keep everybody happy, and you're sick of worrying what other people think of you, and you're concerned that your people-pleasing and conflict avoidance is going to damage your relationships, then come and have a talk with me. Worst case scenario, you get to experience what it's like to talk with someone who actually understands what it's like to be you. I've lived the nice guy experience for decades. I know it inside and out. I know that pain. case scenario, and very likely, you will have such a powerful insight into a behavioral change that you can make in the next 24 hours to significantly improve your confidence, relationships, and career. All I ask is that you be honest, open to change, and willing to try something new. Why wait another 10 years to discover confidence when you can do it today? Fill out the brief form below to apply for a trial coaching session. And do this quickly because there are limited spots each month. And then I'll get back to you to book in a time to talk.